Here we go again. I'm back in the iron mines in Noxon Park in the Forest of Dean. I've just come in through an entrance called Jetty, and I'm going to go down a bit deeper. So I'll swivel the camera around and see where we end up. Just here, you can see some of the colours. Let's put my light on. You can see some of the colours of the ochre. We've got quite bright yellow ochre and reds, and almost through into some purples. And the miners actually used to mine this for pigment, for paint. And when you found a patch of really good colour, it was, and you can see how soft that is there. If I can get the focus on the camera, I mean, that just crumbles away. That can be ground down to make pigment. When you found a really good patch of colour, it was actually more valuable than the iron. And there are a few places around the forest known as that have got colour in their title, like Collarfield, Collar Grove. And just over here is a little pocket of iron ore. You see it in there. And can you see at the back there? Lots of little stalactites. That's actually what they call stalactitic iron ore, so it's formed of stalactites. The miners called it brush ore because it looks like a sweeping brush. So they've hacked a good chunk of that out. You can see there's probably some more there. Right, I'm going to head over here. Can you see there's a little bit of a depression there? I have to admit, I have to hold up my hand and admit, guilty. These mines were worked for many hundreds of years. They could have been, iron has been mined in the forest since probably before the Romans came here. And so these mines have been mined and then remined. So initially they'd have started on the surface, and then they would have found outcrops. So, obviously outcrop working, they'd have found outcrops on the surface, dug that away until they then started to follow it underground. And they'd have followed it, digging out. It's quite a steep slope, so I'm just going to take this steady. Digging out the ore, following it down underground, following what they call leads, which would be narrow bands of ore that they could follow in the hope that they would turn into a big churn, a big chamber full of iron. And so the mine would have been a whole series of small little tunnels winding all over the place with connecting up some big chambers. Now later on, once they had dynamite, they'd have come back in and worked that area over again, and then opened up great big chambers like this. So this has all been worked out much later. And from there, originally they would have taken it out to the surface. What they did is they joined all these separate holes up with a level, and then everything was taken down to wagons, and then came out down at the bottom of the mine. we duck through this tunnel here, which is a bit rocky. Let's get over that. It's an old bucket. And handle off something really. We duck through here. You can see, well, for a start, you can see all of the drill holes where they've drilled and blasted. But you can see one of their older tunnels that they've dug through. Where are we? A little bit further, I think. There we go. You can see there, look. That's a much earlier tunnel. Nice and small. They've dug that up through there and come all the way down. And it continues just there. But somewhere in between, they've come along and they've dug all of this out and left two halves of the tunnel just as remnants of what was originally there. Now, I'm not going to go down there because that ends up in a drop. It drops quite a long way. I'm going to go down here. You can see that since I was last here, a couple of weeks ago, the water has dropped. So now I can get onto the level. It's only just below the level. You can see it's just there. Carries on down deep. So this, when I was looking at this last time, was it 3 weeks ago? This was waist deep in water. You can see the marks in the mud where the railway sleepers would have been. That's where that remnant of a tunnel came out, and you can see why I didn't come down there, because there's some deep water down there. It is literally just a couple of feet below me now. There's still quite a lot of water coming in from the surface somewhere. Now this here is the drainage ladder. This would have been to drain the mine out, but it's now blocked. So this would have gone and come out. This is the Oakwood Mill land level, the quads level, and this would have come out at the bottom of the valley and would have drained all of these mines, and the wagons would have gone out this way, so they didn't have to go uphill. That is absolutely, totally blocked, right to the ceiling. This level would have been 550 yards long, so it's just over 500 metres, 1,650 feet, and that would have taken it to the surface. But despite how dry it's been, there's still water coming in. So where that's coming from, who ever knows? There holding up that little wall of deads. Deads are a rock that didn't contain anything, so they didn't want to take it out, so they would pile it up out of the way, and they just put a few timbers up to hold it back. And considering they've been underwater 50% of the year for 200 years or more, they're not doing too bad. A bit better than that one there. So this tunnel is what's known as a crosscut. So it's not following the ore. It's coming in at 90 degrees to the ore. And when the tunnel went on, it turned left and right. It went about 1,000 feet in that direction. If we head up through here, this would have linked through to the next mine. But as you can see, there's been a bit of a collapse, so we've got to climb over the top of the roof, and I would imagine it's going to finish pretty soon. Well, the divers obviously have got a way through, or they do something up here, because you can see the diving line. No, they've just got it tied off to a rock. So the tunnel this way now, completely blocked. And that would have linked through to the next of the surface holes. You can see the roof is a bit iffy in places. Some horrible looking rocks. That would have linked to the next of the surface holes, which I think is what is known as north on the old map. You can see the water's got a long way to go yet. It'll go down, it can go down another, well, we've been down at least another 50 or 60 feet. But the mine, there was another level below us that would have been drained from a shaft, which is now blocked and filled in. So this is the 375 foot level, so that's 375 feet above, 375 feet above ordnance datum, sea level, and there was a 235 foot level, so that's 160 feet further down, so we never see that. because the water level never goes down that far. Right, I'm going to head up round. I'm going to go up there, and I'll just pause the camera while I do it, if I can find the button. Right, I'll put the camera back on now that I'm over the worst of the rubbish. Where can I get? Oh, I get up over there, I think. Looks reasonably solid. Where are we? Somewhere up here, there is a level. Which we discovered. Probably it. There we go. For all that crawling, you get to a really nice level. You can see there's pick marks in the wall there where they've been hacking away at it with a pickaxe. And then when you get to the end, it's completely collapsed. So we thought we'd have a go at digging that, see where it goes. And we kept pulling rock out, and it kept coming down, and we poured some more rock out, and it kept coming down. And you can see just here all the rock that we poured out. And then when we went to go, we got back up to where I showed you that depression, and there was an enormous hole. And it's all been coming down that hole at the top there. And so this is the fragment of an old level that at some point that they've broken into when they've blasted through the tunnel, and then they've backfilled it all. So we ended up with about a 10-foot deep hole, which I think we managed to get one person through, and then we decided that it was too dangerous to leave, so we backfilled it all back in again. So theoretically, well, you can get from there and back out to the surface again. Nice colours. Right, I'll turn the camera off again while I squeeze through all this stuff. Just thought I'd turn the camera on again briefly, just to show you that magnificently perched slab of rock, all just cracked and just hanging. And that is a good 8 inches thick. It's just sat on that little bit of rock there. So I'm going to stay over here. I'll put the camera back on again when I get back down onto the level. Right, I'm back down on the level. This is where the junction was, so that's the cross cut that heads to the surface. So that's Oakwood Mill land level. That's where I've just come from. So that would have gone about 1,000 feet. And then in this direction they drove about 3,000 feet. But they encountered a lot of faults along the way, so where it links up to a lot of the other entrances, it is actually collapsed. So we can get so far through then it collapses, and then we can climb out and go out through a different way. It's hard to believe this was waist deep in water only 3 weeks ago, and before that it was about 40 feet of water above us. More diving lines and more deep water. So you can go down there later on. If I head round here, I think we can get a view of the jetty. It'll have to be here then. Okay. So there we go, there's the jetty. This is why that entrance is known as Jetty. There is a big stone wall constructed there, and that goes down quite a long way. Can't see through the water. This water's probably 10 or 20 feet deep, something like that. But it carries on down quite a long way down through there. And that jetty is what the railway, the tramway runs on. There's a big iron bracket there with a hoop on the end that may have taken maybe a compressed air line, possibly. And then this gap has been spanned with a series of old rails. So I have to walk across that now, which is always fun. I usually use both hands. I have been across here when it's been waist deep in water, but there we go. That's it, we're through. There you go, there's the back side of the jetty. The interesting thing is that's all sandstone. That's not limestone from inside the mine. They've brought that stone in to create all of that. And you can see it goes down quite a long way down into the water there. There's another tunnel going up there. If you've seen my previous video in here where I went and did the higher level, I showed a hole going down that looked like it had a set of steps going down it. Well, that comes out here. Climbing up you can climb up it using that bit of rail, a bit of bed rail to use as a pole to climb up. So here we go, along the jetty. So we're on top of that stone wall now. That's the rails that I went across, along with that iron bar. It's a massive, great big chunk of rock there, all perched on top of that piece of wood. Sort of see through the water here. How well you can see if I shine my light down there, but it's about 30 feet down there. pile of rocks here that have come down from that tunnel. So it just goes round and looks back at the other side again. So this is back round the other side of the jetty. That was that curved piece of wall that you could see. It's a bit of a level across there. You can get to by walking the rail, but I'm not going to do it today. Quite a good, interesting piece here. You can see that there's two different sorts of rock. Down here you've got a sort of a whitish grey rock. This is crease limestone. This is what generally all the iron is in, and there's some iron there. The drill hole. Then above it, there's this flatter section of pinkish rock. That is Whitehead limestone, and they know the miners called that leadstone because there is no iron in the leadstone. So they would mine up as far as that junction between the crease and the Whitehead, and that would be it. That's when they'd stop, and they'd leave it as a good solid lid because it's quite dense and it maintains a good solid roof. Which is why there's very few pit props in these mines. There you go, you can see the Whitehead there, and some yellow ochre that the miners have been picking away at with, see the pick marks in it. And that probably goes back up round here. Yeah. See, there's more. You can see the flatness of the Whitehead limestone there. Now here we come to one of those faults. There's a clay band here, and it's caused the roof to collapse. So it looks as though that is the end of the line. But fortunately, we can scramble up through. Ooh. So there you can see the shaly clay that has caused this to be unstable and caused all of this to collapse down. This is really weak and friable, just breaks to pieces. Just pulls to pieces, look. It's rubbish. That's a good bolt there from something. I don't know if I got that on the camera or not. And you can see the angle of the fault. And so we're going to be going down there. Little hole, a howling gale coming through it. I might even tilt this round and you can watch me try and go down through it. Trim my light off. Don't really get used to any of that. Spin that back round again. You can see they've put a prop in there to help hold it. See one of the railway sleepers on the floor, piece of wood. Let's put my light back on. A big deep pool of water, and the level would have carried on through here, and you can see they didn't like it very much even when they were mining, because this is one of the few places where they've actually put some pit props, but that has completely collapsed. That would have gone through into the next section of the mine, which would be, I think it's called pit prop actually, the next section. These are just cavers' names that we've given them. And where we're going to go is we're going to go up there. Oh, rock fell off. So a little tunnel through there. Slippery where it's been wet for so long. There we go. Just clambered up there. So you can go through that hole over there where somebody's very helpfully put an arrow. But I prefer to go up here. Goes to the same place, less of a squeeze. It's not quite so easy with one hand. You can see there was a nice wall of deads here to create a nice loading platform, but unfortunately there's been a bit of a disaster with the roof, so we have to step round this enormous boulder. So that hole where the arrow was just comes out just over there. Again, you can see the mark, see the pillar. The pillar is creased limestone, and the roof is whitehead. And now we've got to go up. Ah, that's an interesting caving helmet. Okay. And we've had Mr. Spray Can has been here again. This slope is probably, what, 60 or 70 degrees. It used to be a point of contention to try and get up here without putting your hands on the floor. But whether I'll manage it today, I don't know. There is a way through there that takes you up and brings you to the same place. Step there, step there, don't put my, put my hand down. How many arrows does he need? Surely one is enough to come down here with a rock and wipe all that off. Across onto that one. There we go. Ooh, bit out of breath now. And there we go. Some magnificent bit of calcite flowing down the roof. And anyone who's seen my first video, I looked down there and said that's where we'd come up if the level wasn't flooded. So that's what we've done. And now we're into great collapse. And you can see the daylight. So as I said, this would have been an underground chamber, and at some point there was a bit of a rumble, and all of that roof came down and opened it up to the surface. So when I came in last time, I came up from this hole just here. So that leads down, that goes across to the high level route that takes you above the water when the water level is up. Although I have, back this winter, there was quite a long period where we couldn't even get across the high level route. It was just the water was too high. And then we'll go out through a different entrance to the last time. This is a shorter, quicker way out. Or it would be if I could find it. It's not there. Oh, look, somebody has marked it. There's a surprise. I don't know what the hell that's meant to be. And if you look ahead, you can already see the daylight. There we go, nice big open scowl hole. A scowl is the local term for a lot of the surface workings. Right, I'll finish there. That's where we've come from, and I hope you've enjoyed this. Hope it was told you something interesting, and if you did like it, press the like and the subscribe and the such like, and maybe we'll do it again. Cheers, thank you.